Listen closely. Imagine the metallic tin of a bead box being turned, beads clinking against one another. A single strand slid across a wooden table, fingers lifting it, then a knot pulled tight. What does one tiny bead remember when it moves between hands? What stories does it carry when a child tucks it under their pillow, a grandmother strings it at dusk, or a migrant folds it into a suitcase and steps onto a new shore? Today, we follow a bead's trail.
Welcome to Ancient Echoes. I'm Samnang Bradley, and this episode is called Bead Trails, glass beads, devotional strings, and the little objects that carried memory. For the next hour, we'll trace beads from bench to bracelet to suitcase, and we'll listen not just for places in trade, but for the small acts, stringing, repairing, gifting, that let beads do the work of memory.
Before we begin, a consent-first frame. If you visit markets or makers because of something you hear today, always ask. Offer payment if you can, and never share images of sellers or locations without their explicit permission. Later in the show, we'll rehearse exact Khmer and English phrases you can use. For now, let's listen.
Let's start with the basics, the little vocabulary that helps you spot beads in the wild. When I say glass trade beads, think of luminous, often irregular glass beads that moved across long trade routes. Recycled glass beads are made from repurposed glass and often have a softer, worn look. There are also modern plastic beads and faience imitations that echo older styles. You'll notice differences by weight, by how light passes through them, and by the size of the hole through which thread passes.
For listeners, when you hear me describe a stall or a bench, listen for cues. Someone blowing on a hole, the rasp of a thread through a narrow hole, or the clack of beads being sorted by color. These little sounds tell us about labor, practice, and care in a way words sometimes cannot.
One quick note. Names and categories shift across regions. A bead that one market calls a trade bead might be called something else in a neighboring province. The layers matter. How people name objects, who remembers a bead's origin, and who, over decades, adds a story to a strand.
Segment 2. Let's sit at the maker's bench. Picture a narrow wooden table by a canal, an older woman lamp-lighting a strand at dusk. She doesn't lecture, she hums. Her hands move the same deliberate way they have for years. She repairs broken necklaces, rethreads malas, and for a small fee restores what has sentimental weight. Pay practices vary. Sometimes a customer gives a small extra gift of rice or tea. These economies are intimate, rooted in reciprocity rather than formal accounting.
There's also apprenticeship. Young people learning to knot, to choose colors that mean something to families, to judge a bead's durability by touch. Apprenticeship here is quiet, watching, repeating, and receiving stories about a bead's life as part of the lesson. That's where culture lives, inside those repeated movements.
Important safety note. Today I'll describe bench rhythms and the social economy around them, but I will not provide step-by-step instructions about drilling, heating, or other technical techniques. Those steps can be dangerous if done without supervision. If you want hands-on learning, seek a supervised workshop or one of the vetted visual resources we'll point to in the show notes. Now imagine the market. Trays stacked like colorful islands, each tray sorted by color, then by hole size. Tiny fingers pick through them. Bargaining. The trader's hands move fast. Bargaining is musical, a back and forth with quick humor and a practiced softness. Seasonal surges, Pchumben, New Year, weddings, bring traders new demands, and mixed trays travel between province and city, sometimes reaching diaspora shops where nostalgia and demand collude.
A small vignette. In Battambang, a market trader told me about a tray of mixed beads that arrived from a neighbor province. She smiled and said, Some beads come with stories attached. Purple beads that were for weddings, chipped green ones that had been pilgrims' keepsakes. She didn't always know exact origin, but she knew the social lives of beads, what they were likely to become in hands that bought them.
Segment 4. Uses and Meanings. Beads are play objects, charms, devotional malas tucked into pockets, and stitches of memory sewn into cloth. I remember a story from Phnom Penh. A mother kept a battered strand from her childhood, a mix of plastic and glass, threaded in a way only a child could love. Bright, mismatched, miraculous. When she migrated years later, she wrapped it in a handkerchief and slept better on the first night in a new apartment. The bead was a small anchor.
And children's play, stringing beads, becomes early practice in pattern, in patience. A festival bracelet threaded by a grandmother is not just decoration, it is instruction, blessing, and history folded into a few inches of thread. The cultural significance is in those tiny acts. Who threads for whom, which colors are chosen, who is invited to help.
Segment 5. Diaspora Translations. When families move, they adapt. If an exact bead isn't available abroad, substitutions happen. New materials, new color combinations, but the practice endures. I visited a diaspora kitchen where an aunt sat at her table restringing a beloved strand. She hummed the same tune she sang back home and stitched the end of the string into a piece of cloth. A small ritual of fixing, of making whole again.
Sometimes beads become sewn memorials, tiny beads stitched into a memory cloth, latched inside linens where only family knows they exist. These hidden bead layers carry grief, joy, and the mundane continuity of daily life. The deeper story is how these objects become portable anchors of belonging.
We need to pause here and talk about ethics. This is segment 6. I want to say the exact phrases we recommend using when approaching makers or vendors. Please repeat them softly to yourself if you're planning to visit markets. Khmer first. Som anunyan au kyom tot rup buntik bante. Then in English, may I photograph this briefly with your permission and credit you. If someone prefers not to be photographed, respect that boundary, always.
And some practical rules we emphasize. Offer to buy or pay for time before asking for photos. Never share a seller's location or identifying details without their explicit consent. Anonymize faces and specific stall markers if asked, and never ask a maker to reveal confidential manufacturing methods. If you want to share a photo publicly, route it through our curatorial team so we can help vet and anonymize it. We'll explain how at the end of the episode.
A quick word about safety and technique. You'll hear references to drilling or heating in some bead stories. I'll describe the sensory and social context, but not the how-to. These are tools that require training. If you are curious about making beads, look for supervised, paid workshops or trusted educational resources. Don't attempt risky techniques from memory.
Practically, if you're documenting a bead story, ask permission, offer to buy, keep the person's name and story as they want it recorded, and if you send us photos, confirm in writing that the maker consented. We will not publish images that could endanger small traders or expose them to opportunistic buyers.
Before we move to closing reflections, let me share a short scene. It's dusk. A woman tightens the final knot on a child's bracelet. The child slaps the hand away playfully. They both laugh. The bracelet is imperfect, some beads slightly chipped, but to both of them, it is perfect. That clap of laughter is the same sound a bead carries when it crosses a river, a border, or a generation. These small objects are not passive. They carry touch, intention, and repair.
In that image, you can hear how beads are both material and memory. Material because of glass and thread. Memory because of who touched them and how. The pattern shows us how ordinary economies and intimate rituals together preserve cultural continuity. That's foundational to understanding how beads matter across time and place.
As we wrap, 3 concise takeaways. 1. Beads trace networks of trade, of family, of migration. 2. Beads hold practice, the slow learning at benches and the ritual of threading that teaches belonging. 3. Ethics matter. Ask permission, anonymize when needed, and don't treat makers as exhibits. If something you heard today moved you, we invite a modest and permissioned way to share. If you have a bead photo or a short 10 to 20 second clip and you confirmed the owner's permission, please send it to our curatorial email or DM us on Instagram. We will vet and anonymize submissions and, with permission, feature them on Ancient Echoes and on Samnang's YouTube channel. If you do post publicly before vetting, please include the seller's permission statement and avoid sharing exact stall locations.
And one small favor, if you go into a market, consider supporting makers through vetted cooperatives. Buying a single restored strand or paying a small fee for time is often the most direct, respectful way to show support. The research tells us that small payments and respectful interactions keep these practices alive.
Thank you for following this bead trail with us. Today we sat with makers, traders, and families who let tiny objects carry things as big as memory and belonging. May you look a little closer at the objects you meet. Listen for the hands that made them, the knots that repaired them, and the stories stitched into them.
Let's unlock the echoes of history together.
In the quiet of night, I whispered my plea, holding her close, hoping for her decree. I called upon spirits, asked them to guide, to take her heart and lead her by my side. So I drew her near, traced her brow so fair, my sight is way. Sacred power, swai, mighty spirit awakened. By the master's right, let her heart be gently taken. Let her follow me now by vow and by sign. I hear these words, oh teacher, witness this plea. Oh, my sacred power, swai.